What I wanted to ask about is the Journal of Controversial Ideas. So first, maybe for our listeners who aren't familiar with it, just what is the journal and what purpose does it serve?
The Journal of Controversial Ideas is a peer-reviewed academic journal which is committed to publishing articles that pass the standards of peer review in terms of rigor and providing evidence and so on, but might be too controversial for other journals to publish. And we started this up because of a number of episodes in which people had been abused, had either been unable to publish or had published but had suffered a great deal of personal abuse and even threats of physical violence. And I should have said, we started not just to accept articles that had difficulty being published elsewhere, but also to allow authors to publish under a pseudonym in case they were worried about the consequences to them personally or to their career for publishing something that was controversial, regarded as not just mistaken, but unacceptable, something that shouldn't be said or defended by other people, by people who might be on selection committees of positions they're applying for example. So we regret the fact that there's a need for this. It's regrettable that there is this kind of censorship that goes on of some ideas, that it's very difficult to publish them. And secondly, that there's this self-censorship of people who don't want to publish things under their own name because of the possible consequences for them. So the journal is now in its fourth volume, its fourth year. We're publishing twice a year. We've got usually 8 to 10 articles each issue that get through the peer review process, because we get a lot more articles submitted, but many of them don't get through the peer review process. And I think it's clearly serving a useful purpose. I think there definitely are articles that would not get out anywhere. Many of the authors tell us that they had been rejected, and clearly on ideological grounds, not on grounds of merit. So I'm glad we've done this, and I think it's a good way of pushing back against any narrowing of the scope of ideas that are able to be discussed.
What are some of the either the most important in your mind or most intellectually fascinating articles that you've published in the journal so far?
So one of the areas in which we published quite a few articles relates to transgender issues, because that's a topic in which it's very hard for people who regard them. Some people, for example, call themselves gender critical feminists. So they're feminists, but they don't believe that simply saying that you're a woman, if you're biologically male, is enough to make you a woman. And people who are critical of that have had difficulty. They get, to some extent, they may get abused and labeled transphobic, or it may be that they just can't publish because the journals don't want to accept that. So, that's one area. One of the first articles we published was about IQ and genetics. So basically saying that refusal to accept that IQ is, or intelligence, however you want to phrase it, is related to genetics is a bit like believing in creation theory for how we got to be how we are. It's equally unscientific. I think that's an interesting area that people are very reluctant to talk about that particular question, or questions relating to intelligence and genetics. So that's another area. But we've had a whole lot of different areas. We've had discussions of violence in order to reduce animal abuse. Is it justified to use violent means to do that? Is it okay to? Are there some circumstances which is okay to put on blackface? Which is condemned as sort of a kind of racism. Is it always to be condemned as racist? And we've had articles about pedophilia, in particular arguing that if you're what one of the articles referred to as a minor attracted person, that is a person who is sexually attracted to minors, but you're not active, you don't actually ever sexually interfere or touch a minor, is there a reason why you should not be able to be open, public about your attraction, or perhaps look at, let's say, anime type cartoons of people having sex with minors. And those are interesting questions, troubling questions for some people, questions that some people will think should not be discussed, and something similar about sex with animals in ways that are not harmful to the animals, but people who are attracted to animals and love their animals, love their companion animals. That actually is something. So lately, because I've been doing more social media lately as part of my, if you like, new profile of no longer teaching, but trying to reach more people through the online. So I've been doing a little social media stuff on X about each article as the new issues come out, and I did one, fairly innocent one. I thought, just describing the fact that there is this article that talks about and defends people having sex with animals in ways that don't harm them. That article has now had over 6 million views. Sorry, that tweet has now had, or X comment has now had over 6 million views, and not favourable views generally. The comments are overwhelmingly hostile, not entirely, but people just get so incensed by the idea of sex with animals that I think that that's why they spread it, basically, as if to say, how shocking this is, without responding to the arguments. I don't deny that there could be arguments against this, but I would like people then to write a response and send it to the Journal of Controversial Ideas. And if it's good, we'll put it through the peer review process and it'll be, as if to say, how shocking this is, without responding to the arguments. I don't deny that there could be arguments against this, but I would like people then to write a response and send it to the Journal of Controversial Ideas. And if it's good, we'll put it through the peer review process and it'll be published. And maybe it'll be right too. Maybe the article is wrong. I'm not saying that it's not, but just the idea that, you're a pervert, you're crazed, you ought to be hanged, drawn and quartered or something like that, is not really an argument.